Which NFL head coach would be the next one to be fired? You tell us. Drop us a comment. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And shout out to our recent new subscribers, Bill Cook, Tyler Lordy, Anthony Fernandez, Lath Boogie, the Golden Union, just to name a few. Shout out you guys.
Thank you.
Make sure you comment on this video as well. But let's get into the topic today, Matt. Which NFL head coach will be the next one to be fired? Because as you know, it's inevitable.
I mean, I know the one that I want, and I believe the one producer RJ wants is Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah.
And honestly, Steve Keim as well. We'll just throw him in as a package deal just for the heck of it. The Cardinals are abysmal, and they're one of those teams that for the last few years, we've been giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. It was, Kyler Murray's young. They're building around him, and then they get red hot last year. They fall apart. The last 2 seasons, honestly, they fell apart late after looking like they were going to be able to make the playoffs. They have all the weapons in the world. They go out, they get DeAndre Hopkins. They have a solid enough running game with guys like Chase Edmonds last year and James Conner, as well as, going out, getting J.J. Watt. And letting some of their defensive guys walk, too, which is crazy to think. They're in this weird situation where they pretend to be like a contender, but then they also play upon this idea that they're building for the future, and it just never seems to be able to work out. And I think Cliff has just run out of time. I mean, you're wasting a Kyler Murray who's proven, at least to me, that he can be your franchise quarterback and he could do spectacular things, and you're just leaving him out, high and dry. Move on from Cliff, get somebody who can actually make him successful. I mean, look at what Doug Peterson is doing down in Jacksonville with your guy Trevor Lawrence. That's a perfect example of how quickly that can change when you get the right guy in a position with the right quarterback. So Cliff's got to go. Send him off the cliff. Go back to college like Urban did. Or actually, no, he didn't even do that. But just go somewhere. I don't care.
It sounded like you were saying that Steve Keim's kind of been doing a decent job. You mentioned all the talent that Kyler has around him. You mentioned J.J. Watt coming in.
Well, I said he brought in the talent. He also
Hopkins.
lost a lot of talent.
He did, and obviously he hasn't, formed a lot of great relationships with former players. And
not at all, or former coaches.
Correct. So, I mean, there's definitely credence to the argument, but
he's the only guy that seems to like him is the owner because he keeps hiring him.
Clearly. He just gave him a raise as well. Right?
Honestly. It's ridiculous.
So there's credence to your argument for sure, but, I mean, there's no more clear answer than Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, this man is not an NFL head coach. Point blank period. He's proven that through 14 weeks or so. I mean, as you know, Matt, I was skeptical before the season even started.
Absolutely.
Once this hire was made public. Because, I mean, again, why does Nathaniel Hackett even have this job? It's because Aaron Rodgers is a back-to-back MVP, and Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers during that time. I mean, but there's no evidence of that he's, the reason that Aaron Rodgers looked like a 2-time MVP in Green Bay, considering the Denver Broncos have the worst offense in all of football.
Well, Rodgers hasn't looked good either this year, so there's something missing.
Is it Hackett?
It might be.
Are you going to say that?
I'm just saying. If we're going to do that, we're going to bring that up.
I think we have a good reason to point to why Aaron Rodgers has struggled, and that would be the absence of Devontae Adams. I would think that would be the correct answer instead of Nathaniel Hackett no longer being in town, considering he's helped turn Russell Wilson.
I'm simply pointing out that there is a correlation there. Hackett leaves, Rodgers gets worse.
Oh yeah, that's good. It's good journalism right there. Good investigation.
Adams did leave too. That's part of it. But
correct.
Why can't there be multiple things?
It's
a pie. Everybody has a slice of the pie.
You can't just point at one reason, right? But I mean, again, back to Hackett. I mean, again, he runs the worst offense in the entire NFL, and that's what he was brought there to do. He's at least partly turned Russell Wilson into one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL this season. And obviously, Russell has some blame in that as well. And we talked to Mark Schlereth a couple weeks ago on BVM Sports, and he gave Russell Wilson a lot of that blame. But again, Hackett has to shoulder a lot of this. And going to your point about Kingsbury, at least we've seen the Cardinals look like a good football team under Cliff Kingsbury at certain points during his tenure. I mean, they did start the season off 7-0 last year, and obviously that cooled off. But again, we've seen him, Cliff Kingsbury, and Kyler Murray in a playoff game as well. I don't see anybody envisioning that for the near future for Nathaniel Hackett and this Denver Broncos offense. And also, too, Denver Broncos still, as bad as they are, have a top 5 defense.
They do.
They have a great defense, and this team is still abysmal under Nathaniel Hackett's watch. This should be his first and only season as an NFL head coach.
Well, I mean, honestly, you kind of made my point for me. The fact that the Cardinals went 7-0 and what looks so great, and they've been terrible ever since, what has Kingsbury done to actually build off of that success? He's done nothing. Like, are you just going to continuously be like, well, he kind of did this, he kind of did that, as he just wastes away the talent that was on that team at one point? Like, Kyler Murray is obviously out now for the foreseeable future and probably into next season with that ACL.
Right.
You look at DeAndre Hopkins, he's heading towards the end of his prime. Who knows what's going to happen with a few of these other guys that are playing well right now? You have to take advantage of that, and it's just Kingsbury can't be continuously given extra time. And to the Hackett thing, I'm glad you brought up Schlereth, because Schlereth pointed out that in that first game against Seattle, when Hackett was running the offense, it looked good. I mean, they should have won that game.
They lost.
They were two bad, turnovers on the goal line that kind of cost them.
Correct.
And then once they allowed Russell to take over, the only thing you could say about Hackett is he obviously has, whether it's from the front office or just his own conversations with Wilson, he's let Wilson kind of take over the show.
That's also on Hackett, though.
I get that that's on Hackett, but at some point you also have to, look everybody in the eye and be like, if Hackett gets the chance to do it, you could see the success, because there was that first game where there was success. Listen,
it's all looked bad for Hackett, because either your two scenarios, either he acquiesced to Russell Wilson himself, and that looks bad on Nathaniel Hackett if you're going to basically turn over the keys of your offense to a quarterback who you're in your first year working with, or he has pressure from up top, which is also a bad look for Hackett, because that tells you that the Broncos front office trust Russell Wilson more than they do their own head coach, who they just hired.
They trust the $245 million they just invested into him, which is not proving to be a smart investment.
No, it's not. But again, it proves that they, have more faith in Russell Wilson at this point than Nathaniel Hackett.
Every coach is going to be doomed, because that's going to be one of the main points heading into any new coaching hire is like, you're just going to have to do what Russell wants.
I guess. Or there might be a good head coach available who can maybe work with Russell Wilson and bring out the best in him in that offense. It's certainly not Nathaniel Hackett. And I just think the thing with Kingsbury, he at least has reasons. You can at least point to reasons why he has struggled, why the Arizona Cardinals have struggled. You mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. What does Cliff Kingsbury have to do with DeAndre Hopkins missing the first 6 games of the season with the suspension, and obviously all the injuries that have ravaged this team on both sides of the ball, most notably here with Kyler Murray? I mean, again, there are reasons you can at least point to for Kingsbury, as opposed to Hackett.
Don't use the injuries as an excuse,
opposed to Hackett, who has this many excuses for how awful and woeful the Denver Broncos have looked, particularly offensively this year. That's my point. Let us know in the comments. Is it Kingsbury? Is it Hackett? Who deserves to be the next head coach fired? Because they certainly both have a case.
Cliff, stop wearing sunglasses in post-game press conferences. It's not worth it.
Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out our other videos, and don't forget to smack that subscribe button down below while you're at it. Also, for more great and original content, head right over to bvmsports.com.